think we're ready. Yeah, we're ready. Take out your assignment 3.2, I'll stamp it. I want to just make sure that everybody's completed all of their sign-ups, invasive species and endangered species. And I want to warn you, if you signed up with the common name, you have not reserved a species. Did anybody here sign up with a common name instead of a scientific name? Okay. You know what I mean by common name and scientific name? Anybody want me to clarify that? Okay. Here I come to stamp your 3.2, then leave your 3.1 out.
I got it.
You were done yesterday? Thank you very much. Put the heading right there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I flew from like here. I made it.
Whoa. Okay.
You didn't have a ton of road traffic.
Yeah, it happens. You got the rest of the assignment somewhere? So kids, I ate 4 pounds of sushi yesterday.
How was it?
That's it. When I woke up today, does that mean that I weigh 4 pounds extra? Or by 24 hours afterward, am I going to weigh 4 pounds extra? What's a producer?
Well, that makes stuff. Makes energy from the sun and all.
It does not make energy.
It converts sun energy to like sugar and carbohydrates.
What do we call those sugar and carbohydrates? This is the term I need you to know. Come on. They have bonds between which type of atom? Carbon. So we call those things organic. They're organic compounds that do what?
Make energy.
They don't make energy, no, they
can break down.
store energy. A bunch of you did not know this when I asked it, and then you did not write it down when I said it, so be careful. Producers are things which make energy storage compounds. You have to know that, so if you didn't know that, you need to. Things which make energy storage compounds, like sugars and carbs and stuff, they're the producers. Are we producers?
No.
So how do we get ours? That's right, we are heterotrophs, so we eat those things. We're consumers. Yeah.
You get a bag of corn when you're wheeling things.
Why are you getting in my business, woman?
I just wanted to know it's good quality corn.
It's for a lab later. I'm too lazy to put it away. So, if a producer is something which makes energy storage compounds, what is production? Yes?
Making energy storage compounds.
Okay. What if I told you that production is also a noun? It's like the product, the energy storage compounds. Check this out. that says primary production. It's the amount of energy storage, compounds, made by producers. This is something that you have to know. I'm going to start this in baby steps, but we're going to get somewhere soon. We can measure the amount of production in terms of calories, which is energy. We can measure production in terms of carbon bonds. People call that carbon production or carbon stored. A plant sits out in the sun, makes a whole bunch of sugar through photosynthesis. That is production, it's primary production. But children, why does the plant make that sugar? This is a review. We talked about this last unit. I'm baby stepping before we get more complicated. We all gotta be together on this. Yeah?
To produce ATP and cellular respiration.
Yeah, it plans to use that sugar. Do we all agree with that? So if a plant makes, for the sake of conversation, 1,000 glucose molecules, does that mean that the plant will grow by 1,000 glucose molecules? Because what's it going to do with most of those? It'll convert them, it'll use them to get the energy back out. Touch your nose if you follow what I'm saying. So we say that gross production is the net production minus the amount that's used. For example, if a plant makes 1,000 glucoses,
What is CI?
what?
It's cellular respiration.
And then it's going to use 900 of those. How much will the plant actually grow that day? That's right, 100. Yeah.
In the book, it had said it the other way around, where gross production was it like in its like raw form, and then net production was what happened after you took out cellular respiration.
And it goes in the wrong order?
Its
Yeah.
net production is the other way, yeah.
I always mix those up. I'm glad someone caught me. Make sure you change that. You don't want to write the thing that I wrote wrong. This reminds me that I should probably be using some notes. So if I eat 4 pounds of sushi within 24 hours, how would you measure my weight? What's another way to say this? Yeah.
You would find how much energy is in the sushi,
Yeah.
and then you would see how much you cellular respired.
Yeah. How much I used up? How many of you understand that that's the whole diet concept? You figure out how many calories you're using, and then you figure out how many calories you're eating, and you adjust one of those numbers to either store calories, get fat, like I keep doing nonstop every day of my freaking life now that I'm 40, or you try to balance and adjust. Maybe I should burn more calories or eat less calories so I don't keep storing so much. I've got so much sushi stored. I keep putting sushi in storage.
Take it out.
I do have to go poo, is that what you do?
giant sushi lizard.
You see, look, I just keep eating pounds and pounds and pounds of sushi, but I'm only using a few calories. I just stand here and yell at you, and then I go home and I do nothing. So, 1 trillion tons of sushi minus a couple calories of yelling equals tons and tons of muffin top.
For sure, if you eat sushi with the chopsticks, you burn more calories than you.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at those, but you're right, they would only slow me down. Alright. These concepts are supposed to be roughly manageable for you. Because we're just getting these basic, like, energy in, energy used, energy stored things. When we start looking at whole ecosystems, all of a sudden we're going to move quickly, so make sure that we've got these basics. If you have 1 acre of land with a certain amount of nutrients in the soil and a certain amount of water and a certain amount of sunlight, you can figure out the maximum production possible. Do you understand what I mean by that? You can only grow so much corn.
Yeah.
So we can do things to increase productivity of soil. We water it. We break it up and make it softer. We add nutrients to that soil. That gives us more productivity. In the absence of a human intervention, any given landscape or any given environment has a set production potential. Make sense to everybody? You can only grow so much kelp on that square footage of coastline or whatever. Yeah? Then if you could figure out how much that kelp is making minus using, you could know how much kelp is available to feed the next level up the food chain. Does that make sense? You understand what I mean by that? Secondary production is the amount of energy storage compounds made by consumers of those producers. This is probably supposed to be not that difficult. I hope you would say it's easy. It gets interesting pretty fast. I just gotta make sure that you can say it right. Why is this box smaller than this one? What?
A law of thermodynamics says you can't get 100% of the energy from something else, so it's more like 40%.
So you just think that's just trophic inefficiency? I'm sorry, that's energetic inefficiency?
Yeah.
I think not. I think there's something else. You're right about that. But like if you eat 1,000 calories of energy, your body's gonna get almost all of those. You're right, that you don't digestively take every last one of those calories. But aside from some chemical inefficiencies, you make most of that into kinetic energy. You probably, I'm gonna assume, capture maybe 90+% of that net energy.
don't use it all.
of that gross energy input? What?
You don't use it all?
You don't use
Like
it?
some of it you store it as fast?
I think we're getting somewhere. Yes, that's correct. So, yeah.
Well, this is all kind of related. Does it matter which one is the first law of thermodynamics and which one is the second, or as long as you just know both of them, are you okay?
The college board expects you to know them separately.
Is it that you can only eat the net production on the first level of production? So, if the,
A landscape that makes 1,000 acres of grass. Sorry, 1,000 calories of grass. Let's be clear about this. I'm just making up numbers to keep it easy, okay? 1,000 calories of grass. Would that support 1,000 calories worth of mouse? The grass is going to keep growing, so the mouse, wouldn't that make 1,000 calories of mouse?
There's no net production on it. That happens.
Oh, can you tell you that? The,
So say this without the variables now. Would 1,000 calories of grass
no,
give me 1,000 calories worth of mouse? And he says, inefficiency, law of thermodynamics, fine. Would 1,000 calories of grass give me 950 calories of mouse?
no, because you also need cellular respiration to do so.
Who does?
The mouse.
That's right. You see, remember this, children. The amount of calories I take in is not stored in me because most of those calories I'm going to use up being a dumbass. It takes a lot of calories to be this dumb. So watch. There is a volume of energy that did not get stored in my mice because the mice used that energy to run around and be a mouse. This is like usage of energy, whereas this is storage of energy. Anybody fast with a calculator? Who's fast with a calculator? Come on, show me the calculator. Quick, yeah! Now, okay. You ready?
yeah.
Get this, children. There are 365
Yeah.
days in a year, and I've been alive for 40 of those. How many days have I been alive?
14,600.
Okay, 14,600. Days of my life so far, give or take. My daily calorie intake was probably not that many when I was a baby, but for about 20 years there, I ate about as much as a bear. For about 20 years of my life, my calorie intake was right around 5,000 a day. I've had like a really crazy metabolism until recently. So I think my average is 2,000 calories a day. So multiply that number by 2,000.
Wait, 2,000 or 5,000?
Let's call it 2,000 for the sake of conversation, because some days I was light as a baby.
That's, wait.
365 times 40 times 2,000.
That's a lot. That's 29 million, I think, 200,000.
Check this out, kids. That's a fast and easy estimate of how many calories I've eaten in my 40 years of life. Does that mean that if a shark ate me, the shark would be able to consume that many calories? Because let's just keep saying this. What happened to most of those calories that I've used?
Wasn't the point of the movie that's been going on this week that sharks don't eat people?
If a cow ate me, for all I care, Liliana. If a vending machine ate me, would that vending machine get that many calories out?
No, because you're being a human.
And it takes a lot of calories to be this stupid.
That's not what I said, but okay.
It's what you meant, subtext.
I said human, not stupid.
It's not.
I really don't know what the calorie content is of a human corpse,
But it's not 29 million.
but it's not 29 million. I'll even take a stab at this. I'll bet you that for me, it's gonna be about 1% of that. I'll bet if you sliced me up into steaks and made broth out of my bones and figured out how to eat the skin and the hair and the guts and the blubber.
You don't like to think of your guts being eaten.
Do what now?
You don't like to think of your guts being eaten.
I like to think of you eating my guts.
That's what I'm saying.
Roll your eyes.
I'll bet you could get like that many meals out of my human corpse.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. I might have overestimated.
It's like 200 days worth of food.
Yeah. It's actually more than that. It's almost 1,000 days.
2,000 a day.
300 days. Yeah,
You think I could eat you for 300 days and survive?
I think you got there, you know.
I think so.
Maybe
Yeah.
we got like 3 people.
If you ate all of it, if you ate the entire chunk of Jose, I'm almost 200 pounds, bro.
But just your body for basically a year.
Okay, but you got.
Maybe like 2 months off. Like 10
Dude,
months.
bone broth alone, you could survive for weeks.
Yeah, dude, just do bone
Weeks.
broth.
And then, like, how much of the rest of me is meat? Like, how much of it? Like a half-pound serving is like 1,000 calories.
You serious?
Yeah. I mean, you know, yeah, I'm probably overestimating. Let's call it half that now that we calculated. But yeah,
I googled it, it's 130,000.
I'm sorry, what's that?
It's 130,000. Google it.
The calorie content of a human?
Yeah.
Wow, all right.
Why
That-
is that?
Why do people know that?
I'm gonna write that down.
Or 1.6.
Wait.
That's lovely, thank you.
So it's more like 2 months instead of 10.
Well, now we know how Easter Island survives so long.
That's right.
It's about 62 days, I think, if you eat 2,000 calories a day.
What?
According to that estimate, it's about 63 days if you eat 2,000 calories a day.
All right. Well, now we have it.
That's like well fed.
Now we have it. Keep in mind, I am far better than an average human.
You wear shirts that show it off.
I've got a baby.
We had a pig face.
There's a reason I'm doing this. Watch, we can filter through a whole bunch of study goals right now. It's a good thing you have 3.1 out.
Jose, I think it's really funny that I spent all this time during the English when I come to class and you're like rubbing your belly and like puffing it out.
The absurdity of life never, ever, ever, ever stops. Just get
Like all the time on the whole time, like what, 2 minutes?
I like how many triangle diagrams are in this.
You like how many what?
Triangle diagrams.
Let's get some quick study goals now. Now it all comes together easy. I've already said everything I needed to say for 6 whole study goals. Number 1, ecosystem energy flow. You know, energy goes into an ecosystem in the form of sunlight. Plants are not perfectly efficient. They can only capture so much of that energy to make plant. And most of the plant that's made gets used up by the plant. So there's only a certain volume that is actually stored after that. We know that energy is neither made nor lost, it just changes form, and every time it changes form, some quality is lost. So if you're in a trapped room full of mosquitoes and the mosquitoes take all of your blood, you can't eat all of those mosquitoes to get all that energy back because, of course, there's inefficiencies in those transfers. Some of that energy is just going to be dissipated as heat. As the mosquitoes fly around, they give off heat. As you digest the mosquitoes, you're going to give off heat. The energy goes somewhere. This that I didn't, you can imagine, right? That many that many mice will make a certain amount of coyotes. The energy's not disappearing, it's going somewhere. This stuff, it's not like missing, it's not like a mystery, it's just used. In this case, by the coyotes running around and being coyotes. So we talk about production, productivity, producers, gross and net, as in, watch this, made, used, and stored. And you all know energy efficiency number 4 of something like your car, where the amount of energy you put in versus the amount of miles you get out gives you a ratio, like miles per gallon. We also know that there's something called trophic level efficiency, which is the ratio of food to storage. Like how many grass calories will result in how many mouse calories. You saw that my input of calories, when you consider my increasing age, is a lot less than my actual energy storage. If I do the math and his estimate is correct, that is my trophic level efficiency right now. 0.4% of the calories that went into Jose. If we trust my first estimate, that was 1% to get it to here, but 1% turned out to be wrong. That number is actually less than that. If we trust that estimate, my trophic level efficiency to this point, I'm 40 years old, is 0.4%.
So as you get older, does that go down? Like,
You can imagine it probably would, right? Because I could live to 80. That would double the number of calories that have gone into Jose, but I don't think I'm going to weigh 400 pounds at 80, right?
You really try.
I mean,
Challenge accepted. But you can assume that that efficiency is going to keep dropping because I'll probably spend most of those calories. Matter of fact, as you get really old, you actually kind of lighten up because you're not using anything, so you stop carrying it. What's the most efficient time to eat a human?
babies.
Oh, when they're babies, they haven't had a lot of calories, but they don't offer a lot of food. I could probably eat a baby in a single sitting. Shut up, Cheezick.
Why won't I get toddler, you know? Then
Yeah, what about a toddler? That might be better, but that's still little.
Maybe like a really fat, lazy toddler.
I could serve a toddler for like 6 people and we'd be pretty well fed. You know what the top time to eat a human being is? Right around your age.
yes.
Why?
Because you've basically maxed out. All the calories that we feed you from now on are just going to get wasted being a dumbass. But you know, you've grown like this, straight line since you were a baby, right? And right around now, your growth starts to peter out. You all realize that you're more or less done? You're basic, more or less there. When I was your age, I was pretty close to this. Pretty close.
What changed?
Thank you, yeah, I was a little skinnier.
So it's like extremely efficient in those movies where like the little fish eats a plant and then a bigger fish comes, then a bigger fish comes just like immediately.
Yeah, that stuff's nonsense. Yeah, you can imagine that's not kind of possible.
That's like,
In reality, it should be a small human being by a slightly larger human.
As part of many small humans going into that larger human, yeah.
That'd be
Yeah, so I think that the most efficient time to eat a human is probably teenage years. When you've done all your growing.
that's cool.
You know, I went from fetus to about 160 pounds in 17 years. And then it took me another like 23 years to gain just like another 10%, 12% weight. So yeah, should have eaten when I was 17. How many of you find this to be a totally absurd conversation?
Interesting, actually.
It does kind of capture this whole trophic efficiency question though, doesn't it? Do you understand why I'm doing this?
Well, like cane toads, when would you eat them for maximal efficiency?
Right around the time when their caloric input is not yielding the same amount of growth. So you know what? That's when we eat chickens, when they're 16 or 17 equivalent of chicken dinners. When chickens have reached like pretty close to sexual maturity, they're like more or less maxed out, that's when you eat it.
It's like before they start laying eggs.
Yeah, and this number is very well known, because if you're doing this as a business model, you're paying for the food, and you're getting money for the meat. So you want to be right at that tipping point, where you get the most meat dollars for the least dollars of food. You understand that?
Doesn't it take like 5 months for a chicken to 6 months?
Whatever that number is, chicken farmers are like on the penny, like, hey, we're gonna feed them tomorrow, so let's not feed them today. So we're gonna kill them tomorrow, so let's not feed them today. So that we get the exact spot, balanced perfectly, maximum weight gain, minimum inputs. We know that for raising catfish. We know that for cows. Everybody thinks that you eat the big cows, but you don't. Those big cows, they're not for food.
They're for milk.
Yeah, when you see big cows, they're for other product. But like the cow that you eat for like sliced steak, like it's a little teenager cow. Like why would you keep a cow alive long enough to be old and grizzly like me? That's just a waste of feed.
It's a really sad way to look at a cow.
Any way you look at a cow is really sad.
I don't know.
They just represent like youthful bounty and like you had previously seen them as like figures of hope and life. Like you have like cow posters on your wall.
Like on my ceiling before I go to bed, I like.
Dare to dream, be the cow.
Love you, Betsy.
Most kids had glowing stars as a kid. He had glowing cows.
That's right, yeah. Little cowbell when he goes in.
Like on my door. Instead of knocking on my door, you're out that door.
So you're probably getting tired of this conversation, so I'm going to move on. Because every step has usage of calories, you end up with this shape. That shape is called a trophic pyramid. Can you see it looks like a pyramid? And we even have an average. The average trophic efficiency, for the sake of conversation to keep things easy, average trophic efficiency, 8, get it? Like eating, like past tense, like how much you eat and what you ate. So the 8 is plus or minus 10% as a global average. Insects don't live very long.
I get it.
Insects don't live very long. They translate a gross amount of their input into calorie storage. Hey y'all, visitor? Great. So that number for insects then, small. It's a good thing that you came at this point. We were talking about cannibalism and calorie content. Would you like to guess what's the best time to eat a human? Like what age is the most efficient? If you had to feed that human.
First thing in the morning
I don't know, I mean, in its lifetime, in a human's lifetime, what would you get the most out of it? For calories in to calories out?
This is gonna sound awful, but when you're a baby.
So we talked about that, but keep in mind you've seen a baby, Tiffany. That little baby's, you know, like a, what is that, like a big
Are we talking
burrito?
about nutrient density though, or are we talking
Calorie
about
content.
like? That would be different. What was the class consensus before you gave them?
About that
answers,
toddler
I think?
thing.
Toddler came up, yeah. I was gonna say, I'm glad that you didn't come at that time, but now we're just doing that whole conversation anyway. Children, what is the best time to eat a human? In terms of energy efficiency? Cause think about it, like they're mostly maxed out now. Didn't you get to be about a full-size Matthew at about 17 or 18?
Yeah.
Give or take? And weren't you about a roughly full-size Tiffany at about 17 or 18, give or take? So after that, all the calories that go into us are just wasted calories, right? They're just maintenance calories. Like I was mostly a full-size Jose at about 17 or 18.
I'd say they're just extra calories, you only get bigger other ways.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But if you look at the amount of calorie input to the amount of calorie storage, I turned 17 years of input into mostly a full-size Jose, and then 20 odd years of other calorie input just gave me a little bit of muffin top. So anyway, now you've caught up with us, Tiffany, Matthew. So that, children, when we average that out, is 10%.
We don't know what
Hurry.
to do with the garlic, so we put it
In the what?
Yo,
in the storehouse.
Next.
Got rejected. What's up, Kyle?
Yeah.
Thank you, children. That average trophic efficiency across the board, all species globally, is about 10%. As my colleagues walked in, I was telling you, insects, more efficiency. Insects, 40–50% of their calorie input becomes calorie storage because insects don't really have a very long lifetime. But has anybody noticed how quickly insects change? You can go from like a fly egg to a fly maggot to a fly in like a couple of just little moments, hours even. The average trophic efficiency for mammals is far lower, single digits. You probably don't have to write this down, but you remember what it was for an adult Jose? So far in my life, my trophic efficiency has been 0.4%. That's not very efficient. That's why the best time to eat Jose would have probably been as a teenager. It would have been maybe 2%. But look at that, 2% if you ate me as a teenager.
The middleman.
What's that?
Let's get the middleman. Just eat what he do you.
Bingo. And so this brings us to actually the punchline of this whole conversation. And I hate to get all persnickety about your dietary choices. But there's an interesting argument. What did you mean by skipping the middleman? Could you please clarify what you're talking about?
Instead of feeding you with whatever food and then eating you, we should just eat whatever we're feeding you with.
Could we extrapolate that to like global food systems for a minute?
So like, instead of feeding chickens a bunch of grain, we should just all eat grain.
Why would that be a smart idea?
Because a lot less energy would be wasted on the chicken, like maintenance calories.
That was so good. That's better than I said it. You should just take over and I'll just use my cell phone for a while and you can just get my coffee. Yeah.
So it's just more efficient to eat lower on the food chain.
And that's like a thing that people throw around a lot in food systems, yeah. Yes?
But where would if we basically take the second
Yeah.
to lowest spot on the food chain, where does the second to lowest part of the food chain go? Do they just die off because we're taking all their food now?
That's fine by me.
But do they?
I mean, we're pretty good at displacing other trophic levels that we compete with, so I suppose presumably that could happen. I just want to point something out. if we want to eat at the top of the food chain, look at the size of our energy potential. You see what I'm pointing at? Right? Like if we're gonna get 10% of the species that got 10% of the species that got 10% of our net production potential, keep in mind, we already said this is fixed by the environment. You can't make things grow to infinity. There's only so much soil, so much water, and so many nutrients, and so much sunlight. Remember I told you this is an average, right? For cows, the actual number today globally is about 2.8%.
Pretty good.
2.7, yeah, slightly better than eating humans. You don't have to know that number, it's just for the sake of conversation. Watch. You don't, this is not memorization time, it's actually just the. Now we get to talk about what this means for human decisions. If I'm gonna eat 1,000 calories of cow, that's only 2.7% of the calories that went into that. Right? To that cow?
Yeah.
We all agree with that? Because trophic efficiency, that's how much is stored in that cow, right?
Yeah.
We're all with me on this? So how many calories of cow food did it take to make that 1,000? If that 1,000 is 2.8, how do I do that math? 1,000 divided by 2.8?
I think it's about 0.28.
0.028?
Yeah, 0.28.
Yeah. So 36,000 calories went into that cow to make that 1,000 calories that I eat. Don't follow the math I just did there? Because I did the 2.8 percentage, how much went in math? Yeah. So there could have been 36.7 servings of cow food for me plus my 35.7 homies. Instead, I took the food off 35.7 homies' plates, funneled that into a cow because I like steak better. And I do like steak better. I don't want to eat those grains. I hate eating grains. I love eating cows.
Why isn't everything just an herbivore?
Well, you mean evolutionarily, why isn't everything an herbivore? Because all that energy storage is still valuable potential. Like, I'm talking about global justice and whether we all deserve a stake of our planet's production potential. That argument about me eating steak or not, I'm just kind of pulling at your heartstrings because I know you care about your 35.7 homies. But evolution doesn't have that consideration. If somebody can afford to eat the cow, it's like, well, that's a calorie source that I can monopolize on. So being a predator is evolutionarily smart for the predator. But globally, we can make a decision what we want to eat. I don't care if you're vegetarian or not. I am a carnivore. I'm not here to tell you what to eat. But if we wanted to feed more humans, we wouldn't waste all that food feeding the cows. That's all.
So the reason why it's beneficial for the predator is because it's taking food away from other possible predators?
Because the food's available. If there was all herbivores and you were going to be another cow,
I would eat cows.
right, because it's better than being a friggin' cow. So predation evolves.
Okay.
If there is enough productivity left, watch this. If there's enough for that to be a sustainable niche, that's going to evolve. In the ocean, these numbers are much higher. So in the ocean, you get a lot more layers. Because everybody's in the same temperature already. You're in a temperature bath, so you're not wasting calories on warming your body. Trophic efficiency is better in the ocean. Here comes the final punchline, and then we can pack this up. I'm glad we got this far today. If I had 1,000 acres, if I had an acre of land that makes 1,000 calories, the primary production potential of my acre, like that's enough land to feed me daily. You realize on 1 acre you can like grow all the food for a family year round, more or less, if you're not too picky about what you eat. You can feed a family on 1 acre of land. It's a book. Some guy wrote that. John Jevons wrote that.
This is like farming, not.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking farming. I'm just talking farming. Where's that book? Some guy wrote a book. Anyway, some guy wrote a book that says you can feed a family on an acre of land. But if I use that acre to grow chickens, I'm not gonna get enough chickens to feed my family. If I use that acre to grow cows, I'm gonna get even less.
I mean, like, how many nights you plan to feed your family? 'Cause if you go like 10 chickens on an acre, that's like 2 full meals at least.
That acre could have grown enough productivity to feed my family's plants year round.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna assume you're probably right. I could get a couple of days of chicken out of that. Or I could get like a small snack, like a half day's feed, maybe a day's food for one of us of beef. The chicken number today is right around 12 to 15%. Rabbits push 25. That's why I want to grow rabbits down there. If we could make ourselves eat bugs, remember that bugs are super efficient. If you're willing to eat soldier fly larvae, you get more than 36% of that. So most of you could come over to my house and we could all share that acre if we're willing to eat those bugs.
We do have a lot of bugs.
This come together, you understand what I mean about trophic efficiency? Is this working out? Did we get somewhere then?
I'm gonna eat my snack for lunch.
Why don't we just eat like animal products, like cheese?
Well, because you mean where you can keep the animal alive? Those are more efficient than eating the animal itself, but still fairly inefficient.